Don't Make Me Think, Revisited by Steve Krug. Introduction. Some time ago, a friend of mine was booked on a flight. The date of his flight just so happened to be the final deadline for a negotiation between the airline and its union. A strike was looming. Concerned, he did what any of us would do. First, he started checking the news obsessively. And second, he went to the airline's website, looking for answers. He wanted to know, what's going to happen to my flight? What's going to happen to me? He arrived at the airline's homepage and found nothing. Not a single word about the potential strike. He searched the site. He browsed the FAQs. He scrolled through press releases. It was all just business as usual. Strike? What strike? Think about that for a moment. On the morning of a massive potential disruption, the one question on hundreds of thousands of customers' minds was completely ignored. It was as if the airline had put its fingers in its ears, pretending not to hear the very real anxiety of the people it was supposed to serve. My friend's confidence in that airline, a brand they had spent hundreds of millions of dollars to build, evaporated in an instant. This story isn't just about a single company's blunder. It's about a fundamental misunderstanding of how we, as human beings, experience the digital world. It's about a failure of common sense. And it's the very problem that a brilliant man named Steve Krug set out to solve with his little book, Don't Make Me Think. First published back in 2000, and updated over the years, this book has become something of a legend, a secret handbook for anyone who builds things for other people. It sold hundreds of thousands of copies, not because it's filled with complex theories, but because it's filled with something far more rare, profound, simple, and timeless wisdom. Krug isn't an academic in an ivory tower. He's a consultant who has spent decades sitting next to ordinary people, watching them use the web. He's seen their confusion, felt their frustration, and he's boiled down everything he's learned into one single, powerful idea. And that's my promise to you today. By the end of our time together, you're going to understand this one idea so deeply that it will feel like you've gained a new sense. You'll start to see the invisible architecture that makes some websites and apps feel effortless and magical, while others feel like a frustrating chore. This isn't just for designers or programmers. This is a lesson in empathy, in communication, and in seeing the world through other people's eyes. So, let's begin. Book summary. If you were to ask Steve Krug the most important thing you can do to make something easy to use, his answer wouldn't be about fancy design or complex technology. It would be three simple words: don't make me think. This is his first law of usability, and it's the sun around which every other principle orbits. What does it mean? It means that when someone looks at a web page or an app, it should be self-evident. Obvious, self-explanatory. They should be able to get it without having to puzzle over it, without expending any extra mental energy. Think of it like this. When a design works well, the little thought bubbles over your head are calm and confident. Okay, there's the navigation. And that's what I'm looking for. Click. But when a design forces you to think, those thought bubbles fill up with question marks. Is that a button or just decoration? Why did they call it that? Where should I even start? Every one of those little question marks adds to what psychologists call our cognitive workload. It's like a tiny mental tax we have to pay just to use the thing. A few question marks are fine, but they add up. Soon, that tax becomes so high that our confidence in the site, and the organization behind it, begins to crumble. We start to feel like the people who built it just didn't care enough to make things clear. This is why Krug says our job, as creators, is to get rid of the question marks. But to do that, we first have to accept a few hard truths about how people really use the web. When we're building a website, we imagine our users are like careful readers in a library. We picture them poring over every word we've written, weighing their options, and making rational, deliberate choices. The reality? It's much closer to a billboard going by at 60 miles an hour. This leads to the first fact of life online: we don't read pages. We scan them. With very few exceptions, we don't read online, we hunt. We're sharks? We have to keep moving or we'll die. We scan for words and phrases that catch our eye, the ones that seem to match what we're looking for. The rest of it is just noise. Think of it like a dog named Ginger listening to her owner. The owner is giving a long, detailed speech, but all Ginger hears is, blah 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 Ginger blah blah Ginger blah blah blah. That's us online. We're listening for our trigger words, things like free, sale, or the specific thing we came to find. The second fact of life is just as humbling: we don't make optimal choices. We satisfy. That's not a typo. The word is a mix of satisfy and suffice. It means we don't choose the best option. We choose the first reasonable option that we find. As soon as we see a link that looks like it might be what we're looking for, we click it. Why? Because we're in a hurry. And guessing is more efficient than a long, drawn-out analysis. Besides, the penalty for guessing wrong online is tiny: just a quick click of the back button, the most used button in any web browser. And this brings us to the third, and perhaps most important, fact of life: we don't figure out how things work. We muddle through. Almost no one, when faced with a new piece of technology, sits down to read the instructions. Instead, we forge ahead, making up our own stories about what we're doing and why it works. We use things with completely wrong ideas about how they operate. Krug compares this to the scene in The Prince and the Pauper, where the pauper, left in charge of the kingdom, uses the Great Seal of England as a nutcracker. To him, it was just a big, heavy piece of metal that did the job perfectly. We all do this. We muddle through. And a lot of the time, it works. We get things done. But this muddling is often inefficient and prone to errors. If users truly get how your site works, they're more likely to find what they're looking for, discover all the great things you have to offer, and feel smart and in control while doing it. And that feeling is what brings them back. So, if this is our reality, a world of fast-moving, scanning, satisficing, muddling users, what are we to do? Krug's answer is simple: if your audience is going to treat what you build like a billboard, then you should learn to design great billboards. And the first rule of billboard design is to use conventions. Conventions are the standardized ways of doing things that we've all come to expect. Think about a stop sign. It has a specific shape, color, and word so that drivers can recognize it instantly, in any weather, without thinking. Now imagine if every town decided to get creative with its stop signs. It would be chaos. The web has conventions too. We expect a site's logo to be in the top left corner, and for it to be a link back to the home page. We expect navigation to be across the top or down the left side. We know what a shopping cart icon looks like. These conventions are our friends because they reduce the need to think. They make the world predictable. Designers sometimes resist conventions because they feel they've been hired to be creative and innovative. But Krug's advice is wise: innovate when you know you have a better idea, but take advantage of conventions when you don't. Don't reinvent the wheel just for the sake of being different, unless your new wheel is truly revolutionary. The next tool for billboard design is creating a clear visual hierarchy. This just means that the most important things on a page should look the most important. You can do this with size, color, boldness, or by giving an element more white space around it. A good visual hierarchy pre-processes the page for us. It does the work of organizing and prioritizing, so we can grasp the layout almost instantly. When a page lacks a clear hierarchy, when everything is shouting for our attention at once, we have to do all that work ourselves, and it's exhausting. This is also why it's crucial to break pages up into clearly defined areas. A well-designed page allows us to quickly identify the different zones. This is the main content. This is the navigation. These are ads I can ignore. We decide in a split second which parts of the page are likely to be useful, and then we almost completely ignore the rest. Of course, a huge part of scanning a page is looking for what's clickable. As users, we should never have to spend a single millisecond wondering if something is a link or not. The visual cues, the color, the underline, the button shape, need to be obvious. And finally, designing a good billboard means keeping the noise down. Visual noise comes in three forms: shouting, when every single thing is trying to grab your attention; disorganization, when a page looks like a ransacked room; and clutter, when there's simply too much stuff. The solution? Krug offers his third law of usability. Get rid of half the words on each page, then get rid of half of what's left. This sounds extreme, but he's serious. Getting rid of words that no one will read reduces the noise, makes the useful content more prominent, and makes pages shorter and less intimidating. The two biggest culprits are what he calls happy talk and instructions. Happy talk is the fluffy, promotional text that welcomes you to a site and tells you how great it is. It's the welcome to our website stuff that conveys no real information. It's like small talk, and web users don't have time for small talk. They want to get right to the point. Instructions are even worse. The simple truth is, no one reads them. The goal should always be to make everything so self-explanatory that instructions aren't needed at all. If they are absolutely necessary, they should be cut down to the bare minimum. These principles of clarity and simplicity extend beyond just the words and images on a single page. They form the very foundation of how we find our way around a website, the art of navigation. Think about navigating a physical space, like a department store. When you walk in, you look for big signs, tools, lawn and garden, to get to the right department. Then you look at the signs at the end of each aisle. You drill down, level by level, until you find what you're looking for. Navigating a website is a similar process, but with a crucial difference. On the web, we're weightless. There's no sense of scale, no sense of direction, and no sense of location. Clicking a link isn't like walking down an aisle, it's like being teleported. 1 second you're here, the next you're somewhere else entirely. This is why we're so often lost in space online. Good web navigation is what compensates for this missing sense of place. It's the map, the street signs, and the compass, all rolled into one. It tells us where we are, what's here, and how to use the site. That's why every page needs what Krug calls persistent navigation, the set of elements that appear on every single page of a site. This usually includes a few key things. First, the site ID or logo, which acts like the name on the front of the building, constantly reassuring you that you're still in the same place. Second, the sections or primary navigation, which are the main departments of your site. Third, the utilities, which are helpful tools that aren't part of the content, like sign-in, help, or a shopping cart. And finally, a way to search. Just as important as the map itself are the street signs. Every page needs a clear page name, prominently displayed, that matches the link you click to get there. If you click a link that says hot mashed potatoes, you should land on a page titled Hot Mashed Potatoes. It sounds trivial, but breaking this silent contract erodes trust and creates confusion. To help us know where we are on the map, we need a "You Are Here" indicator. This is usually done by highlighting the current section in the navigation menu. And finally, many sites use breadcrumbs, a little trail at the top of the page that shows the path from the home page to your current location, like Home Products bivalves. They're simple, space-saving way to let you know where you are and make it easy to move back up. To see if a site's navigation is working, Krug created a simple but powerful exercise called the trunk test. Imagine you're blindfolded, thrown in the trunk of a car, driven around, and then dumped on a random page deep inside a website. When the blindfold comes off, you should be able to answer a few basic questions instantly, just by glancing at the page. What site is this? What page am I on? What are the major sections? Where am I in the grand scheme of things? If a page passes the trunk test, its navigation is doing its job. Now, all of these elements come together in the most fought-over piece of digital real estate in the world, the homepage. The homepage has an impossible job. It has to establish the site's identity and mission, provide an overview of the entire hierarchy, offer a search box, tease the best content, display timely updates, accommodate advertising deals, provide shortcuts, and handle user registration, all at the same time, for every single visitor. It's a place where everyone in the company wants a piece of the action, because a link on the homepage gets traffic. This often leads to a tragedy of the commons, where so many people add their own things to the page that it becomes an overgrazed, cluttered pasture that's no good for anyone. Amidst this chaos, the most important job of the homepage often gets lost, conveying the big picture. When you land on a new site, the homepage must answer 4 key questions in the first few seconds. 1. What is this? 2. What can I do here? 3. What do they have here? 4. And why should I be here, and not somewhere else? Getting this right in the first moments is what Krug calls the Big Bang theory of web design. Our initial impression of a site forms in milliseconds and is a surprisingly accurate predictor of our overall experience. If we get it right away, we're far more likely to have a successful visit. If we start out confused, we usually just get more confused. A clear tagline next to the logo can do a world of good, a short, pithy phrase that sums up the site's purpose. So how do we know if we're getting any of this right? How do we escape our own biases and assumptions? This brings us to the ultimate antidote for bad design. Inside most organizations, discussions about usability often devolve into what Krug calls religious debates. People express strongly held personal beliefs about what they like and don't like, and they tend to assume that most users are just like them. Designers want things to look beautiful. Developers want to build clever features. Marketing wants to make bold promises. Everyone is arguing based on their own perspective. They get stuck debating the myth of the average user. But the truth is, there is no average user. All web users are unique, and all web use is idiosyncratic. The right question isn't, do people like drop-down menus? The right question is, does this drop-down menu, with these words, in this context, work well for the people who are likely to use this site? And there's only one way to answer that question: testing. You don't need an expensive lab or a PhD in psychology. Krug champions a simple, do-it-yourself approach. Once a month, for one morning, find 3 ordinary people, give them a few tasks to do on your site, and watch them. That's it. You sit next to them and ask them to think out loud as they go. The experience is transformative. Watching someone else struggle with something you thought was obvious is a profound lesson in humility. It reminds you that you are not the user. Testing one user is 100% better than testing none. And testing one user early in the process is better than testing 50 near the end, when it's too late to make meaningful changes. Usability testing isn't about proving anything. It's about getting actionable insights. It moves the conversation away from what I like and toward what works. This entire philosophy, of clarity, of simplicity, of testing, is really about something deeper. It's about seeing usability as a form of common courtesy. Krug suggests we imagine that every visitor arrives at our site with a reservoir of goodwill. It's a finite resource. Every time we make them think unnecessarily, every time we hide information they want, every time we punish them for not formatting their phone number our way, we drain a little bit from that reservoir. If we drain it completely, they leave, and they might not come back. But we can also refill it. We refill it when we anticipate their questions and answer them clearly. We refill it when we save them unnecessary steps. We refill it when we're upfront and honest, even about things like high shipping costs. In short, we refill it when we act like a mensch, a Yiddish word for a person of integrity and honor, someone who does the right thing. This is especially true when it comes to accessibility. Making our sites usable for people with disabilities isn't just a technical requirement, it's profoundly the right thing to do. And the single best thing you can do to improve your site's accessibility is to first fix the usability problems that confuse everyone. Because if a site is confusing to begin with, it will be even more confusing for someone using a screen reader or other assistive technology. In the end, this little book teaches us that creating things that are easy and pleasant to use isn't rocket surgery. It's about stepping outside of our own heads, seeing the world from another's perspective, and having the decency to make their journey a little bit easier. It's about choosing clarity over clutter, empathy over ego, and above all, remembering that on the other side of the screen is a person who, just like us, simply doesn't want to be made to think. Commentary. As technology has evolved since this book was first written, from desktop computers to the tiny, powerful smartphones in our pockets, you might think its advice would become dated. But what's remarkable about Don't Make Me Think is how it has become more relevant, not less. The reason is simple. This book was never really about technology. It's about people. And while technology changes at lightning speed, people change very, very slowly. The principles Krug lays out, clarity, simplicity, empathy, are timeless because human psychology is timeless. The frustrations we feel when we can't find something on a mobile app are the same frustrations we felt on a clunky website 20 years ago. The relief we feel when something just works is universal. For you, as someone on the cusp of building your own future, this book offers more than just practical advice for making a good website. It offers a powerful mindset that applies to almost anything you will create, whether it's a presentation for a class, a project for your first job, or even just an email to a friend. The core lesson is a lesson in communication. Before you can be creative or clever or brilliant, you must first be clear. The world is noisy. It's filled with clutter and happy talk and needless words. The ability to cut through that noise, to present ideas with simple, elegant clarity, is a superpower. It's a skill that will make you a better writer, a better thinker, and a better leader. So here are a few simple ways you can start practicing this superpower today. First, try the trunk test in your daily life. The next time you follow a link from a social media post or a search result to a website you've never seen before, give yourself 5 seconds. Can you answer those basic questions? Where am I? What can I do here? If not, why not? Just noticing the moments of confusion is the first step toward understanding how to prevent them. Second, practice Krug's third law on your own writing. The next time you have to write something, anything at all, write it out. Then go back and try to cut the word count in half. Then, try to cut it in half again. You'll be amazed at how much stronger and more impactful your message becomes when you strip away everything that isn't essential. And finally, start noticing your own question marks as you navigate the digital world. Every time you pause and think, wait, what does that button do? Or where did they hide the settings menu? You're experiencing a moment of bad usability. By simply becoming aware of these small points of friction, you'll begin to develop an intuition for what works and what doesn't. You'll start to see the world through the user's eyes. That was the book summary of Don't Make Me Think, Revisited, by Steve Krug. We've certainly touched on the big ideas today, but a summary is like looking at a map of a beautiful country. The real adventure, the real discovery, happens when you decide to travel there yourself. This book is filled with wonderful illustrations, witty asides, and a depth of common sense that can only be truly appreciated when you read it. If any of the ideas we've explored have sparked something in you, I encourage you to pick up a copy. It's a quick read that will stay with you for a very long time, changing not just how you see websites, but how you think about communication itself. The link to the book is in the description below. Also, if you found this summary valuable and it gave you a new way to think, please take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. It lets us know we're on the right track and ensures you won't miss our next journey into another life-changing book from the billionaire's bookshelf. Let's keep learning and growing together.